Hey, 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 assalamu alaikum, greetings, and ahlan and welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I know it's been a while. I'm gonna try to get it back together. Last month and the month before were very taxing for me, traveling twice within 30 days, and I hadn't been able to really bounce back from that. So, I'm here today to talk about the silent suffering of girls and women as it relates to period poverty. So, um, again, I'm going to try to keep this an hour so that I can keep this and then save it for later. So, excuse me, this is in regards to one of the companies that I've been fortunate to be a part of. Um, so on this page, everything is about the different businesses that I'm involved in. Otherwise, this would be under my spa page, but I haven't gotten the following on it, on TikTok anyway, that I need in order to go live on there. So I'm only live or able to go live on this account. So, anywho, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Rhadiyah Hutchin. I am a spa owner, a serial entrepreneur, a world traveler, having lived in 4 countries, Alhamdulillah, Allahumma barak, and a mother as well, and an awareness expert. That's just a little bit about me for those who are unfamiliar. Um, so I want to give you some information, some shock factors actually, that you may not have known about. As it relates to the US, and maybe those of you who watch this can share, look, this will spark you into doing some research into your own countries. I can only speak, in regards to America because that's where I am presently. Before I begin, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Assalatu Rasulullah. So, in America, more than 600,000 hysterectomies are performed yearly. Yearly. And 70% of them are being performed on Black women. I can't say women of color. I have to say exactly what it is. It is Black women. And I came across a video earlier, a few, 2, 3 months ago, I guess, where, excuse me, a woman was doing business with an Asian woman. I believe she was from Thailand or Taiwan. I can't remember which. Anyway, so I don't know what the conversation was prior to her going live, but she decided to record the conversation. And she said, "What did you just say?" So the Asian woman, she told her the value of the Black woman is worth more than, or that they could, if we were to sell, donate our organs, or the, if scientists, if those who are part of this Black market were to use everything that we have, everything that is within us, our value is estimated at $100 million. That's how valuable a Black woman is. And so this is why there are so many Black women missing around the world. Um, so I just wanted to share that with you in case you didn't know. So, getting back to the subject at hand. So again, more than 600,000 hysterectomies are being performed yearly in America alone, and 70% of them are on Black women. And if you think about the areas, the neighborhoods, the lower income neighborhoods, because there are affluent Black neighborhoods, for the purpose of this live, I'm speaking in particular about the low income areas. where Black women are. If you notice, there are several Planned Parenthoods, you know, in the neighborhood. And that's on purpose. That's deliberate. Why? Because there's been a pandemic long before COVID. Knowing the value that a Black woman has, her melanin, her eggs, the other body parts that she has, her eyes, everything, right? So if the agenda is to kill off the Black race, they don't want you to procreate. So the more that you see of something, should you have an unplanned pregnancy, you can abort it. That would be your first thought. If you see it going on so much, if this is what is presented to you so much, that is what the hope is. And we won't get into what goes on. There's several things that are going on in these Planned Parenthoods, but nonetheless, there's a lot of them. And why a hysterectomy? Again, the pandemic, to help with depopulation, especially of the Black race. So, anywho, so what we have uncovered, I remember when this first went viral back in 2016, we've been doing some research. And, the research that Allah guided me to came long before that. Excuse me, but I'm not a scientist, so I couldn't prove anything. So, anywho, what we were able to find out was that there are certain ingredients that were purposely placed inside of the feminine hygiene products that we use. Why? Because the more you bleed, the more you clot, endometriosis, fibroids, these are all things, and then of course miscarriages. These are all things to help in the plotting and planning of depopulation. Okay. So a little bit over time, because if you think about the cycle of a woman, it can begin as early, or many, there have been reports that, there could be younger, but what information we've been able to find, the average, I'm just saying the average, age begins at 8, ending at 50. Average. We know there's some that might start earlier and end later, right? But we're talking about the average. So how many years is that a woman, a female, one that is born with a uterus and eggs, she has 42 years of exposure to and the need for feminine hygiene products. We're talking about what? We're talking about pads. We're talking about tampons, panty liners. We're talking about medicine for the headaches and or cramps, the PMS symptoms, the sprays, the body sprays, feminine sprays. We're talking about yeast infections. We're talking about douches for those that still do that. We're talking about for those now. Fast forward, many people aren't doing that. They've learned, they've become woke, so they're doing veggie steams. They're doing the yoni eggs and things like this. So all of these things are a part, excuse me, of the feminine hygiene industry, $1 billion industry at that, right? So there's more money to be made. If you can bleed more, that means you'll have a longer cycle. Excuse me. And women, we know that oftentimes with our cycle, at the end of the cycle, we need, or We need diflucan. Excuse me, sorry. We need things such as diflucan um, for the yeast infection. Okay, so that makes us spend more and more money. Okay, so anywho, um, let me share some other facts with you, and then I'll get into a demo. Excuse me. 1 out of 10 girls are unable to afford feminine hygiene products. Young women between the ages of 14 to 21 say they can't afford sanitary protection. 49% of girls between the ages of 11 and 20 miss an entire year of school due to their cycles. That, we don't mean that all at once. That means, for each month that she's having her cycle, right? She's bedridden, she's in so much pain, or she has to go to the hospital, excuse me, because of how much blood she's lost or how much pain she's in. So that causes her to miss school. So by the time you add all of the days that she's had to miss from school, you're looking at almost an entire year, if not a year or more, as it relates to the school year. And of course, that depends on the school that she's in. If she's in a year-round school, obviously. If she's in, and more obvious, if she's in a school that's, um, it gets earlier and earlier each year. August to May, right? School year, typical school year. So yeah, it's very possible that she could miss a total of a whole school year. So we want to end that. We're talking about the problems, and I pride myself on, when we talk about problems, that we also talk about possible solutions. And so that's what I want to get into. So I don't have our a competitor's pad. If you have a competitor's pad, you're more than welcome to do what I'm about to do if you would like, just so you can see for yourself. Because ordinarily, excuse me, what we tend to do is we have what we call focus groups. And so, and some women, they're shy. They don't want men to be around. But the men need you, fathers, you brothers, you nephews, you uncles. You all need to know this information. Why? Because there's nothing like an ignorant man who is not in tune to his woman, who can't help his woman. And, and I pride myself. One other thing I didn't say about my knowledge or background is that I'm a childbirth educator as well. And doula, postpartum doula. So I was a student before I became a teacher. So, and I've kept with the way in which I learned in terms of how I teach. So in my classroom as a student, the husbands were present along with the wives. Why? Because, ladies, for those of you who have had children, been in labor, when you hit that transitional stage, you don't want to talk. You can't talk. Even if you wanted to, you can't. So if someone who knows what transition is, who knows your pain points, who knows how to calm you down, who knows if you put together a birth plan, can make sure that nothing goes out of your request, out of what you all have already discussed. And who better than the husband, the father of that child? So, because of that, men need to know this information as well. Men need to stop being embarrassed and going to the store and getting the hygiene products for their daughters and their wives. Okay? There's nothing to be ashamed of. Okay? So, anywho, What I have here, and if you see me going back and forth between two cameras, I'm streaming on Facebook, YouTube, StreamYard, and LinkedIn. So, as well as TikTok for those of you that are on this camera, I'm also on TikTok. So, anywho, we know this, we think we know what this is, right? Well, this is our pad. This is the pad in which I'm going to talk about now. It looks very thin, right? Small and thin. And the thing of it is, what's the saying? Don't judge a book by its cover. That is very true of our pads, and you will see that, inshallah. Why is it true? We're going to test the absorbency system. So if you have gone on ahead and gotten the pad that you wear, and you're comparing it to mine, I'm sure yours is much more bulky, longer, wider, right? Because we want that extra protection. We want to make sure that no blood gets through our clothes. You know, we're not leaking, right? There's no stains in the bed, you know, these kinds of things. So we want that added protection. So what's so significant about this pad? It's thin. And if you notice, we have tape here, right? Tape. No, you cannot. Let's see. How can I do this so you all can see? How do they do that? I want you all, there you go. Why is this important? Because if you are, again, if you're doing what I'm doing with your pad that you wear, yours is probably not sealed. Why is that significant? Why do we want, or should we want, something that is sealed? Let's break this down. Sanitary. If we were in a hospital, so this is for the nurses and doctors, healthcare workers, right? If we were in a hospital, it would have to be sealed in order for it to truly be called, a sanitary napkin. Because if it weren't, any and everything can get inside of it to cause it to be unsanitary. Okay? So back when we first came out, we went viral with the information that we found out. All of the competitors' pads that we came across, there was an opening. There was no seal. And ladies, if I'm lying, I'm flying, right? What do we do with these? What do we do with these when we put these in our purse? There's no specific place for them in our purse. They're just tossed in the purse. And if you're a mother of small children and you might have a diaper bag, but then you might have a big enough purse that the things that you need for your child as it relates to changing their diaper or their snacks or your snacks, they can all fit in one bag. And again, there's no special place for this. So what does that mean? That means the loose coins. And for those of you who don't know, the dirtiest thing is money. Paper money, coins, this is the dirtiest thing. And it changes hands every day, all day long. But no one thinks anything about it. Anyway, so if our pads have an opening, everything is getting on the pad. I'm getting ready to open it just to show you. So this is our moderate. This isn't even our biggest pad. And I'll show you what each one looks like as I get further along. But again, proof that it's completely sealed. No opening. Right? No opening. Let's see. There we go. No opening. So you can't get those crumbs. You can't get the makeup. You can't get the pens and the pencils and the crayons and the markers exposed to your pad. But if by chance, what have we done? What do we do if it, even if it, if there, it did? What do we do? We just take that bad boy and dust it off and slap it on without thinking that we could have possibly contaminated ourselves because this was open. So one of the things we found out about why they have it open is because if it were completely closed, it would cause the pad to expand. Why would it expand? Because it's full of chemicals. What chemicals? Excuse me. So the adhesive, the glue that they use, very toxic. Not only that, and let's go ahead and open it so you can see. You know, you hear it's very soft. It's not very noisy. You know, some young girls, they're embarrassed when that they have their, it's that time of the month, right? Because, you know, when you're in the bathroom and there's other people in there, you don't want them necessarily knowing that you're on your cycle. So you, as you heard, very discreet in you know, comparison, I'm sure. So anyway, we want to talk about the absorbency system. Okay. Yeah, okay. Gotta make sure everybody sees what I'm talking about. So in your competitors' pad, our competitors' pads, many of them, uh, you'll see on the labeling 8 hour, 10 hour, 12 hour pad, right? But who wears the pad that long, right? Because it things could happen even after a couple of hours, in some cases even an hour, you know, with those kind of pads. So anyway, the absorbency system, they usually have something it's decorative, it's beautiful, right? And usually it's blue or green or something like this. Well, that's dye. There's a reason it's called dye. Dioxin, that's one of the chemicals. Dye is in red dye, you know, blue dye, green dye, you know, again, a little bit of exposure over time will do havoc on the womb. So anyway, so once you either, you know, for those that are wearing it for incontinence, once that's activated with urine, or in this case, blood for our cycles, right? That dye that's in the pad is activated. And realize it or not, the vagina is an open wound with all of your blood vessels and nerves, right? So, with it being an open wound, that's why an uneducated woman or child, female child in particular, will think she did something to herself to make herself bleed. You know, a wound. We know if a wound is open, if you've injured or punctured your skin and you've done it deep enough in the layers of the skin, you're going to bleed. So that's the natural first thought. Oh my God, I don't remember hitting myself. How did I get blood down there? Right? So, anyway, and also one thing you want to think about is our body temperature. Uh, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So you've got that for some women who are bleeding, as well as for those who are not. The hormonal imbalance, you know, for the woman who's on her cycle is because of her cycle. For the woman who's no longer on her cycle is because of menopause. But some women, there are some that will have some similar symptoms. They'll have hot flashes, or they'll get cold, you know, if they're anemic. Um, Nonetheless, regardless. So you have that. But if you tend to get hot as your body changes because you're on your cycle, so you have your body temperature, you have the dye, that was activated because your blood touched the pad. And then we found out that all of the layers, the absorbency system, was nothing more than, we love to recycle, right? We love organic, we love to recycle, we love to upcycle, right? We're big on that. Yay. Well, did you know that the pad that you more than likely have been wearing for years is has been recycled? We think it's cotton because it looks like cotton. It's white like cotton. But I assure you, it's not. How do we know that? They've taken it through an 8-step bleaching process so that it makes you think it's cotton. So if you were to feel the pads that I am holding in my hand, when we do our focus groups, we have everybody, will either pass it around or we'll come to each person and let them feel. And they can tell that it's cotton. A woman knows cotton. If she knows her body, if she knows products, she knows that what we have is cotton. And, when we tend to do focus groups, we'll have a competitor's pad and we're going to have you feel the difference. And if you've ever been irritated or you've been red, not because of blood, but because maybe you've been itching. And so, you kind of, you're doing this kind of number when you sit down, right? Or you're doing worse than that. We won't get into that. Being discomforted, just because you've put on the pad, because that top layer is synthetic. It's synthetic. It's not cotton. It's something other than cotton. Okay. So you got all those factors. And if you're wearing an inferior pad, by the time you bleed, that everything is sitting right there. So we know, for those of us that know, that the one time that we are supposed to release toxins is during that time of the month. So if you're wearing an inferior pad, everything that I told you, you're reabsorbing into the womb, your womb, back into the vagina, because all of those things are sitting right on the top layer of the pad. Okay. So it's getting all the toxins that you just released, you're putting it right back in. Plus, you're adding the ingredients that were inside the pad that you wear. Okay. So now we're going to talk about, one thing I want to point out first before I do this. So here, if you can see what I'm, fooling with right now, this right here, I'm trying to make sure you all can see this right here on the sides. That is our leak guard protectors. Why is that significant? So that if, when you're on your cycle, that blood stays inside of the pad. It does not leak. That is why it's called a leak guard protector. Okay. So that's all throughout the construction of the pad. So now what I want to do is put some water on the pad. We're going to start testing the absorbency system. So again, if you have your pad or you want to go quickly grab your pad, you can do the same thing I'm getting ready to do. So one of the things that we found out, because we do have a medical advisory board, one of the things that we found out, many of them being OBGYNs, that the average woman excretes between 15 to 50 milliliters of blood per day on her cycle. So what I want to do, and as as I would have it, unfortunately, the measuring cup that I like to use, because I have the exact measurement, it had a hole in it. I had to throw it away just before I was ready to do this. So I didn't have one that I could measure exactly, but I wanted you to see. So here let's see. Yes, on this side. So on this side, 100 milliliters. So it's less than that. So it's less than that. 50 milliliters, because that's we want to do the larger of the two measurements that I mentioned, 15 to 50, 50, right? So I'm going to take this water and I'm going to pour it onto the pad. And for those of you who are doing this with me, I want you to do the same thing. Just pour it all over your pad until the water is gone. Okay. So not only did we find out from our OBGYN doctors that, this is the amount that the average woman excretes. So in order to test the authenticity of our pads, we gave each woman a pack of pads. And I'm going to show you what that particular pack looks like. Right here. Each woman that participated in the study, in the focus group, were given the moderate. That's what this size pad is that I just showed you. The moderate pad, 10 in this pack, okay? And what we found out, everybody didn't bleed the same day. So this would go on, until every woman completed her cycle. So there were some that used every last pad in here. Then there were others who still had some left in the pack. Now, I just told you there was 10 in this pack. Okay? So what happened? They had shorter cycles. Can you imagine that? A shorter cycle just because you made a switch to a different pad. Okay? So that was one thing. So now what I want to do, this I'm using to represent the blood of our cycle. So I won't be so graphic and this video won't get flagged for community guidelines or what have you, right? So as you see, it's completely dry. Completely dry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place it on this pad that I just put all this water on. I want you to see. I am placing it on the pad that I just soaked with water. You are watching me press this pad. Okay. Now I'm going to show you. There's still nothing on this napkin. Nothing. So if you all are doing this with me with your own pad, tell me, did yours come out like this? Did yours come out completely dry? Yes or no? And if you're not doing it with me, do it later. And I would love for you, once I post this video, for you to put in the comments, I did exactly what you did, and mine came out soaking wet. All kinds of water on it, right? Why is that? Again, because of the construction of the pad. The competitor's pad is designed as such that the blood, urine, or those again who are incontinent and wear it, it stays on top of the pad. That's why, right? We change the pad how many times in a day? Most women are changing their pad anywhere between 4 to 6 times a day. Am I lying? That's why when we go to Walmart and places like this and we buy a 30 pack or more, it's going to last the whole cycle because you're constantly changing the pad. Okay. So now what I want to do, I always mess this up when I do it with my own hands. So I'm going to just use scissors so that I can cut open the pad. You all thought you were finished with school, right? Who knew that you would still be experimenting and dissecting. So that's what we're doing. We're going to do. We're going to dissect this pad so that we can talk about each of the layers of the pad. Okay, I'm going to take this off. We're going to talk about this later. But what I want you to see, this is the top layer. The top layer. Okay. You see, there's holes in it. You can see the color of my hand is see-through. Could you do this with the top layer of your pad that you wear? Why is this important? Not only is it bone dry, but there's holes in it. And the reason that's important and significant is because of breathability. We need it. We need to have some air down there, even when we're on our cycle. Why? Because otherwise there's bacteria, and we're going to get into that too. Bacteria. Okay? And so what I want to do right now is I want to show you the absorbency system. This is it. This is the water that I poured. This is it right here. Okay? So I'm going to roll it up. And I just so happen to have some more water. Got some more water. I'm going to put this that's already I've already put water on inside of here. And then we're going to talk about what it does in a minute. So I'm just making sure that it all fits in the cup. Okay. Let me wipe off my hand so that I can talk about the rest of this pad. So for those of you that missed it, we talked about being a young girl. Just think about your daughter just coming on her cycle. How embarrassing it is, just to be on the cycle, right? Her coming into womanhood. Then you've got this big bulky pad that makes all this noise. So everybody knows when you go in the bathroom and you take it out and you're fooling with it, they know that you're on your period. You're getting ready to put your pad on. So, but I want you to see this is very thin. Very thin, right? I want you to do that to the backing of your pad. The packaging. Could you do that so easily? I know you couldn't. How do I know? Because I used to wear those competitor pads. And like I said, normally when I have a focus group where I have women in front, men and or women with me, I have them feel everything that I'm doing. We don't do anything to deceive anyone. This is not a magic show. So why was I able to do this and why couldn't you? Because this is biodegradable. And the reason you couldn't do it, or we can't do it with the competitor pads, is because, let me show you. This is a Walmart bag. You hear how noisy it is. This is what they use for the backing of the competitor pads. So you're not going to be able to easily tear it. Okay? So that's another thing. And we're going to talk about this last layer of the pad. Let me take this off and talk about it. So again, if you're doing this with me, with your own pads, we're going to talk about that last layer. Look at that. Same as the top, right? Got holes in it. Let me see. I still cannot get this right. So you all can see it well. Holes. Breathability. If I had some tea, I could put this over that and you can see the steam through this. Okay. You can't do that with the pad that you have as the competitor pad. Right? And this is another part of the pad, actually the backing before this. Why is this important too? Let's see. Hopefully you all can see this. Okay. I don't know if you, yeah, you can barely see it. Let's see. Like I said, I have difficulty with doing this. So if, hopefully you saw what I'm about to talk about. There's 4 streaks, 4 lines in here. Why is that significant? Because again, it's got holes. It's got holes. I could do the same thing if I had some tea, I could put it over it and you would see the steam come through. And why do our pet, why is it that, again, for those of you who've been here, this was bone dry. So now we're going to talk about that. So I hadn't been talking that long since I put this absorbency system in the water. So what we did was we took what was a liquid and turned it into a solid. See that? I'm trying to make it so you all can see. And so when we've done this in our focus groups, we have the women and men to feel it and to look at it more closely. I'm trying to make sure you all can see. And for those of you who have had children or watched children, especially if they've had diapers, like, oh my God, this is like the same stuff that's in the diapers. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And if you touch it, it's cool. It's not wet, it's cool. Why is that important? I just told you we're moist down there. We need breathability so that we don't get a bacterial infection, a yeast infection. Okay? So that's how absorbent our pads are. It holds 300 times its weight. Okay? And what I'd like to do now, I'm going to take even more water and we're going to talk about a couple other things as it relates to this pad and the ingredients in the pad. Okay, so again, for those of you who were kind of here from the beginning or you saw before I completely broke down the pad, this was in the center of the pad. We call this our microchip. Why? It's because of this, as well as the other ingredients. So for those of you who know or don't know anything about pH is balancing. So like I said, we know that before the cycle and or during and even sometimes until the cycle completes, we're moody, right? And snapping at everybody. Just, some give us the name Eveline because, and they know it's that time of the month, right? So some people will avoid you or you'll avoid people because I'm in too much pain. Don't talk to me. Leave me alone, right? So our pads have pH. It's an algae strip. This is an algae strip. So already we're trying to get your hormones balanced. Okay. And the most important, it has other ingredients as well, but the most important ingredient that we have in this is called graphene. And so look it up. Everything I'm telling you, do your due diligence and look it up. Don't take my word for it. But graphene, because of the graphene that we have in this strip, women are having, like I mentioned, shorter cycles, not as much pain, if no pain at all, no clots. Some women who had irregular cycles now have regular cycles. For those who had difficulty conceiving, they're able to conceive. Some have expelled their fibroids, because that's when you're balanced, that's what it'll do. When you give the body what it needs, it will heal itself. Okay. So we want to show you the power in this pad. Anytime that graphene is present, it gives off energy. So instead of being bent over in the fetal position, in pain, unproductive, that's not happening with the women who choose to wear our pads. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've dipped this in some water. All right, dipped it in some water. And I want to show you just how energetic this strip is. Oh no, I needed to. Oh, I don't know if you can tell, but it lights up. I got to recharge this, but and I don't get shocked when I do this. You know, like I said, we don't do magic, but many women, again, this is not boasting or bragging. All praise is due to Allah, but for them it's magical because they don't have cramps. They have a shorter cycle. They're able to conceive. You know, these kinds of things, right? So there's this. Then the other thing I want to share with you here again, I still have some water. So we're going to talk about the bacteria. And what I did, this is a whole new strip, no water has touched it. And this is iodine. And we're going to take 4 drops of the iodine into the water. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. You see, there's a yellow, it kind of looks, oh, God. Yeah. And you can see it better over here, but it's yellow. So what we're going to do to this, we're going to take this dry strip and put it, if I can get it off my hand, in the water. We're going to swish, 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 swish. We're going to swish, swish, swish. You'll see that the discoloration is gone. It's no longer a yellowish hue. You see that, right? So what that demonstrates is the bacteria, the power of the graphene in our pads. It eats up the bacteria so that at the end of your cycle, you don't get that yeast infection. Inshallah b'idhnillah. So that's the whole demo that we do. And so now we want to introduce you to the full line. So these are our panty liners. There's 30 of these. And for those of you who bleed heavy, we encourage you to wear these 1 week prior to your cycle. Why? So that your body gets acclimated to the ingredients of the graphene and the algae. And so 1 week prior, okay? And then, oh, sorry. So this has no wings. The green has no wings. And the white have wings. We like our wings, right? Okay. So we go from that to, again, if you're a heavy bleeder, you want to make sure the pad is long enough, wide enough. Many will go straight to our biggest pad, which are the super heavies or overnights. Okay. Now in these, they're only 7. Again, I'll get to that in a second, but just, we got you. Everybody's covered. So we go from the panty liners, then we've got the moderate pads. Again, there's 10 in these. Then if you're a little bit heavier, we've got heavy. These are purple pad. Lighting is really bad here. And there's 8 in this pack. And then the last one, like I said, are the super heavies or overnights, which have 7. Why does each pack have a different amount? Because what most women will say, how their cycle starts, is that they spot. They're spotting. So if you're spotting, you only want or need a panty liner. And then as the day or days pick up, it gets a little heavier. So then you're going to need the moderate, and then eventually you're going to need the heavy, and then you're going to need the heaviest. So, but everybody has done different things, but the way your cycle begins will be the same of how it ends. If you spot at the beginning, you'll spot at the end, and the heavier days are in somewhere in between there. So, and we do have a starter pack which have all of the pads in them. But there are those, I've got some, they don't care. They don't do what I tell them. They don't do the pain liners a week before. They just, once their cycle starts, they're in this until the cycle finishes. But what we have found, and this has been with a couple of clients of mine, is that, one of them, she was stubborn and she just started with this only. And then she said, let me do what she said. So then she started to include the panty liners and, began using these. And after about 3 months, she came to me. She said, I don't need those anymore. What's the next size? And I said, these. This is what you need. She said, okay. Then I noticed she came to me again. She said, I don't need those either. You have something smaller. I said, we sure do, the moderate. So ever since she started doing what I told her, she is now only using these. So, and she was a heavy bleeder, a lot of pain and everything. And that's all she uses. So that is the presentation. How much are they? So when you go, you click the link in my bio, Rain Pads, Jewel, Justice for My Jewel, that's our campaign. Online, they are $6 per pack. They are $6 per pack. And there is a business opportunity attached to this. So if that's something of interest to you, we can talk about that later. You can, DM me for any details. If you have a nonprofit organization and you want to do this as a fundraiser, that's something else that we can do. We do tours. If there's a youth group that you have, if there's an empowerment program that you have, I'm more than willing to speak, to any and all women and girls. And again, I don't exclude the men, but if this is, the nonprofit organization is about empowering women and girls, and it's girls only, cool. Whatever you got, I'm good. So, I do need to go, but one of the last things I do want to share with you is an idea. Okay. So we talked about the embarrassment our young girls are feeling when their cycle comes. And then there are those of you who may have difficulty with explaining how the cycle starts and, and whatnot. I got you. And rather than our girls feeling embarrassed or being upset or anything like that, I propose that you have a rites of passage, that you use this as a time of rites of passage and have something to where is celebratory versus something to be ashamed. Have a day that celebrates her from girl to womanhood. Okay. And one of the things that you can do, and this is sometimes what I tend to do, you can do this yourself. If I do it, it's going to cost you more, but this is just an idea of a basket you can put together. We love our flowers, right? Get some flowers, real or fake. So I'm going to talk about this. I want you to just see the basket. I'm trying to make sure nothing falls out. But you can do a gift basket for the girl or girls. Maybe, all girls have come on their cycle right about the same time, and you're having this gathering of girls, from being a young lady to a woman, you know. Some things you might want to include aside from the flowers. We all like to do our nails, right? A little nail kit, right? Let me make sure you all can see that. Little manicure pedicure kit. Um, and this, God, I hate this. So you get the brush on one side and the pumice stone on the other side. So you can do the pedicure. The girls can do their own pedicure. Then you have this, do the foot soak, herbal foot soak, and scrub off the dead skin, right? Um, do a facial exfoliating brush, loofah brush. Um, introduce her to candles. Yeah, this is for demonstration purposes only. I prefer wax, real beeswax, not this fake stuff, um, because of the chemicals. Um, but a candle, a scented candle, and you can that all of these. Well, a couple of the things that I have in here can be a part of the party, the celebration. Um, Maybe you all can do candles, make your own candles. Every girl can, so other girls will be included. Feel not left out. Each girl can make their own candle, right? Um, it doesn't look so pleasant right now, but because it's kind of been shaken up. But these are minerals. Once she comes off her cycle, she can take a mineral bath. So that the minerals that she may have lost, with detoxing from the cycle, can be replenished. Um, a journal, okay, because you want her to start recording the thoughts that she might be thinking, how she's felt. Have her to record, you know, what takes place, when she has her cycle. Um, and like I said, with my client that had each month, not each month, every 3 months, she needed a different size pad. These are things you want to document. You want to keep up with. I started this, and I noticed this. Any changes. Because we don't always want to rely on our memory. So write it down. Um, Another thing that you can include are waist beads. This could be an activity for the girls. Okay. And you can share with them the history of the waist beads. That, Americans tend to, we on something else here, but this is not supposed to be that everyone sees the waist beads. This is supposed to be for the husband only. But yet we don't do that. But each girl using, whatever color is her favorite color, get some beads. And, again, this is another part of the activity. And then you want some bubbly, not real wine. This is, sparkling juice. Okay. And gift the girl or girls with their own basket. So, like I said, I want to keep this an hour. And I'm just about running out of my time. But if you have any questions, again, if you want me to speak, I'm open to that. Otherwise, if you all don't know, um, we do a variety of rooms on Clubhouse. You are more than welcome to join us for any and all discussions. If you have suggestions for topics, if you have suggestions for speakers who would, bring benefit, I want to know. It doesn't have to be a woman, it could be a man as well. Um, we have a lot of fun in Clubhouse. So I have two houses there. One is called Taking Care of Five Before Five, and the other is called Muslim Storytellers. So, like I said, I want to keep this right at the hour, and my time I got seconds left. So I will close with dua. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Anything that I said that was wrong or incorrect is from myself or the shaitan. All glory and praise be to Allah. And anything that is truthful, beneficial, it is from Allah. And we seek refuge in Allah from the evil of the shaitan. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allahumma balagna Ramadan. Okay.